Hey, this is Aaron.
And this is Kristin.
And this is the Drive Mode Show.
And we're laughing because we're silly, but we're going to talk about a very serious SUV right now. Let's talk about the 2021 Cadillac Escalade, Aaron.
Escalade.
It only goes by one word. It's kind of like the Prince of SUVs, right?
Yeah. The really cool thing now is this generation of the Escalade kind of finally pulls it out of that sideways hat gangster image and pushes it into real luxury SUV territory.
It can be whatever you want it to be. Like, definitely seen some tricked out Escalades that have crazy rims on them and they're jacked up and there's all kinds of stuff. And, that's cool too. But I think, the way it comes is as a luxury SUV. I let one of my neighbors kind of sit inside it. I took her for a ride. And she was like, "Oh, this is so nice." I'm like, yeah, it's really nice to be a passenger in that vehicle.
It is. It's really nice just to be in the vehicle. It really doesn't matter where you are. I would have spent an hour in the cargo area. It's just extremely luxe. And I had it during a blizzard. I had it in terrible conditions. We were having to kick off snow boots, climbing in and out of it, all of that. But it was a wonderful machine to drive around in. And something I wanted to point out, though, just really quick, I did do a full review of it. So I'll link that down below if you want to see my review, including some epic music while I show you the rear hatch.
Shameless plug.
So, Kristin, when I had the Escalade, it was somewhere around $109,000, pretty close to its topmost trim with everything in it. How about yours?
Yeah, I had the four-wheel drive premium luxury. It was close to about $107,000.
So I really like that the Cadillac still tells you exactly what you're buying. It's the premium luxury. There's no question what you're getting with that trim name.
Not just a little luxury, it's like big luxury at $107,000.
So Cadillac has always had a really good eye for taking a lot of materials and kind of smooshing them together and having it come out looking really good. Kind of the last or the only of the American luxury brands to be able to put a couple kinds of metal, some plastic, wood inlay, and maybe some kind of leather and some other, and just kind of put it all together and not have it look outlandish. And in this new Escalade, they've taken that to an even higher level. It's just so pretty on the inside. The way they mixed and moved the textures and the materials is just amazing to look at.
Yeah, it's like sitting inside your rich aunt's living room.
But without the plastic seat covers.
Exactly, without the plastic seat covers. I mean, one of my favorite features in the Cadillac, and with all the bells and whistles that we get to try them out with, but it's the same in the Yukon, is that it's got the navigation in the second row seats too. So if your passengers wanted to go somewhere, they could send the directions up to you. Now, the only caveat to that is that I drove my 11-year-old and his little buddy somewhere, and they kept wanting me to go to McDonald's, like over and over again. They kept sending directions to McDonald's. So luckily, you can disable that if you have kids that want to play with it.
I had the opportunity to use it to haul pellets for our pellet stove and to haul around a snow shovel because I had it during a big blizzard. We got something like 28 inches in 2 days.
In Wyoming? So shocking.
And then it was drifting. We had a drift in front of our house. It was about 5 feet high. And I had to dig through that to get to the car. But the Escalade has remote start. So you can start it from the key fob or the app. And you can, from the app, you can change climate control. So by default, when you do a remote start and the temperature outside is below a certain number, it will turn on the heated seats, heated steering wheel, and all of the window defrosts. You can also just manually do that from the app. So that was pretty cool. And then the only real complaint that I had with it was we had a kind of a beige, almost light, kind of eggshell white interior. It gets dirty immediately. And I would think owning a luxury car of that caliber, sure, you're probably not the one cleaning it most of the time, but you don't want to take it in to get cleaned all the time either. And it got dirty very, very quick, especially on the floors. So I would recommend anybody who lives in an all-weather environment, get the rubber mats. I know it won't look as good, but you really should have them.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that I also really liked about the Escalade is the AKG stereo system. It was spectacular. And the following week after I had the Escalade, I had Cadillac CT5 V Series, and it had a Bose, I believe, instead of the AKG, and it was markedly different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the AKG, it's a very well named because if you want the bass, you can turn that up and you can feel it right here.
Yeah.
If you listen to, like I do, you listen to metal and you want maybe more mid-range in your sound, it will do that too. The only thing it wasn't capable of doing are really, really high-end notes. And I don't think that's really a fault of the stereo. I think it had a lot more to do with just how huge the interior of that vehicle is, because the sound has all kinds of space to move around in. And when a sound hits a certain pitch, it dies after a certain length. So
right, and I've got the Monroney here right in front of me, and I can see that the AKG, it says studio reference 36 speaker surround system, and it adds $4,300 to the total price. It's a lot, but like if you love music, it really sounds great.
But if you think about it, making payments, assuming you buy under payments, making payments on a $6,000 vehicle, that's probably 2.5 payments right there for that stereo. And at that point, if you're just doing the math, I mean, it's such a tiny percentage of the overall cost that it probably really doesn't matter that much to the person that's willing to write that check or sign that dotted line for that vehicle.
That's a good point. And, I was doing some comparing of the Escalade to the Yukon, which the new Yukon I think is also spectacular. So I looked at the price, compared the size. Truly, the Yukon, the Yukon, the Denali size, it comes out, Denali trim, comes out at $82,260,000. So it's about $20,000 less. And it's got the same engine as the Escalade, but it has a Bose stereo system instead of the AKG. But it also has that moving console, that locking moving console. So, depending on what luxury level you want, you could easily go with a Yukon Denali and get a lot of the same things.
So what I would say there is, I've driven the Yukon as well in the Denali, and it's a wonderful vehicle. And GMC has also stepped up their game in the luxury market. If you look at the pricing, that Yukon is roughly equivalent to the top level pricing of the Escalade around 3 years ago. So in the last generation. So you can see kind of how they've, step, they're just moving up that ladder.
Right.
I actually also have a review for the Yukon coming soon. Watch the channel. So yeah, it's interesting, but in the Yukon, you will not be getting that Cadillac mix of materials I talked about.
That's right.
GMC just doesn't do that. GMC is a little more conservative in their design, which is not a bad thing. It's a different thing. If you prefer not to have lots of stuff and you want kind of a more understated luxury, then that's where GMC really comes in.
I agree. And I really enjoy them both. They're very, very big. I tested it in my garage as well as a friend's garage that has a very sloping driveway, and it fits. But when you come up on the front, like the grill is like, whoa, it's so big.
I have a picture somewhere, or something of me standing next to the Yukon, and it wasn't until that point when I was making the video for that that I realized that standing next to it on the ground level with, so my feet were even with the tires on the ground, and just standing there next to it, the hood is hitting me right here. I'm 6'3", and the hood is hitting me above the breast, like up on my chest. It's huge.
Huge. Yeah, those are big. You know what's great about them though? They're big, but they're great at towing.
Yes.
I mean, it's at a 6.2.
Extremely stable platforms.
Yes, it's really good. And then the other thing that we probably should mention is that if you're going to choose the Cadillac, you're going to get Super Cruise, which to some people worth the money, right?
It is if you do a lot of distance driving. Now, I will point out Super Cruise doesn't work if you're in tow mode. So if you go into tow mode, Super Cruise will not work, not in the way it would otherwise. But if you spend a fair amount of time on the highway, Super Cruise is a great thing because it removes a lot of the fatigue that you get just from the constant vigil of watching what people are doing and having to react to all of it. Instead, all you have to do is passively check what the vehicle is doing for you. So at that point, it's not driving itself, but it is saving you from having to make those corrections or move things because it's doing those for you. And then you just have to make sure that it's appropriate for the situation you're in.
So if you had $100,000 laying around, would you buy yourself an Escalade?
I would seriously consider it, but I would also really seriously consider a GTR.
Okay, let's talk about
Nissan GTR. We'll talk about that somewhere else. But yes, if I was in the market for a large SUV, I would definitely put the Escalade on that list.
Well, then there you have it. That's all I've got for today.
There you go. This is Aaron.
And this is Kristin.
And this is the Drive Mode Show. Hit subscribe.